So today we have Chadwick. He is the founder and CEO of the Service Center. He is an entrepreneur and is a native Idahoan from Boise. He currently lives in Emmett with his wife and three children. Hi, Chadwick. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. So tell us a little bit more about the Service Center. What is it?
Uh, it's it's a little complicated, but I'll try to summarize. The Service Center is a full service front office and back office support center. If you think of like the best of both worlds between an answering service, like a 24/7 call center, and a virtual assistant that's at home who you can build a relationship with and have a personal connection to. So the best of both of those worlds combined is what the Service Center is and does.
That's awesome. That's definitely a need that needs to be met for sure.
Yeah.
So what led you to this business? Did you start it on your own?
I did. I was in a different industry, and we were growing. We had just opened another office, and when you open a new office, a lot of times you have to put the cart before the horse a little bit. You have to, hire some staff, and you got to get the business going, which, as most solopreneurs and small business owners well understand, putting the cart before the horse. Uh, I I was just looking for other alternatives, thinking what else is out there besides just having this employee sit here and stare at the wall 80% of the day. So what else could we do? Um, Doing a lot of research, I didn't find anything that I really liked. I found a lot of things that were close, but nothing that had everything. And so being the serial entrepreneur, and the famous last words of every entrepreneur, I said, how hard could it be? We'll just start our own. And 18 months later, here we are, having grown exponentially over the last year and a half, to get to where we are now. So it started out of necessity and overwhelmed our other business to the point where it just took off and became my life, my passion now. So
It's usually what the businesses do when we put our
yeah,
focus, it takes over our life.
that's right. It was.
Definitely. So
Yeah,
what do
so
you think your unique skills are that have helped you succeed with this business? Sounds like you're doing great.
yeah, we're doing great. I mean, there's certainly challenges, as with any small business. I think the thing that I bring to the table, I've always been an out of the box problem solver, thinker, creative. I'm very right-brained, which makes me, almost borderline ADD, but at the same time, I think of things differently. I see them from a third person's perspective more than just, a lot of people get stuck in that can't see the forest for the trees mentality. A lot of times I'll be able to step back from a situation and say, okay, what can we control? What are some things that we can do? What processes can we evolve? And um, that's kind of the unique approach that we've taken to building this business is, one, it's all about process. It's all about creating processes to make sure that we're the most efficient that we can be, but also not leaving anything on the table that was wanted. So as we've been growing as a small business and as we've been expanding our workforce as well as our services, we always say two things. One, what do we need next? Because if we need it as a small business, eventually our clients are going to need it as a small business. So what do we need next? And then how can we offer that as a service for our clients when they get to that point as well? And we've been able to find the best of the best in all of these different professional services as far as an administrative back office and front office support. So um, that's kind of the unique approach I guess we've taken, and that's what sets us apart from any of our competition in the industry, which honestly, uh, the uniqueness of the business model sets us apart in our own industry, really. um, an industry of one, but at the same time, having that out of box strategy or the out of box creative approach is what's gotten us through this last year and a half.
Yeah. So do you work with more companies that are brick and mortar, or do you work with more that are virtual like you?
It's a good question. We don't really have a lot of virtual companies that we work with. There are a lot of virtual assistants that we work with throughout the country who don't answer phones for their clients, but they'll do like bookkeeping and a few things, but they want us to just do the phones. And then we have a couple of other, e-commerce kind of stores that sell stuff on Etsy or whatever they may do, that basically they need a call center to answer their phones, but they don't want, or, overseas call centers or something like that, to do it. But most of our clients are trade service guys. So it's kind of a little bit of both. So technically they'd be considered brick and mortar, but most of them don't have an office. They work from home or a garage or a shop or something like that. Um, and like the plumber, the electrician, or the hairstylist, or the beautician, or the massage therapist, and those kind of people who, when they're working, they're either working with their hands and they're knee deep in a septic tank, and that's really not when they should be answering the phone, or they're face to face with clients, right? And then their phone's ringing off the hook because that's what Murphy's Law says. Your phone will only ring when you can't answer it. I mean, that's just how the nature of the game is. So that's typically what we find in our clients is those. I guess you could call them brick and mortar, but they may or may not even have an office.
Yeah, see, I guess I never really thought about it like that. I mean, like with my husband's business, he is like one of those tradespeople where he's going to be knee deep in something and his phone is constantly going off. And so most of
Hmm.
the time it's either he's trained his clients to text him.
Yep.
So he can learn, okay, I'll get back to you later. And the phone's not constantly ringing, you know, or he's trained them that he is going to be underneath a car or something. So leave me a voicemail and I'll get back to you. But yeah, so I guess I never really thought about that being a need for, you know, a hairstylist, which that's a really good point because she is constantly, she's with her client, serving her client that's there in that chair,
Yep.
but she doesn't want to miss that phone call that's going to bring in the next client, you know, or the appointment or whatever. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hairstylists, that whole it's very similar to every industry. I mean, I'd say most trade services or personal service industries, about 80% of them are exactly the same as far as how they do their business, how they manage working on their business, right? But the difference is what they do. But when you have that experience going to a salon and your stylist is able to dedicate their entire time to you, it's a win-win-win for everybody. She can get home at the end of the day at 6, 7 o'clock and not have 30 missed calls that she has to then spend hours trying to get back to people. And who knows if they found somebody else or not, right? So it's just a win-win for everybody. That's the whole idea behind the business model we built was it has to be win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So what's your favorite memory related to the business?
I often look back at the honeymoon phase, as I call it, when we first started the business and we didn't know what we didn't know. We had all of the hopes and dreams of everything that was going to be, the sky was the limit. The possibilities were endless. It was that newness of it, right? And so we would be in those brainstorming sessions with all of our staff, and we'd have ideas flowing, and it was just nothing was out, not off the table. Everything was possibility. And going back in those and remembering those times of all the different things, some of the crazy things that we came up with, that thank goodness we never actually tried to do. And then some of the other things that we otherwise would have said no, but we just said, man, anything goes. And after trying it, it worked or it didn't. And that was the funnest part. It was just building it from the ground up, from scratch, not having any training, not having any resources out there to look at it and say, that's our benchmark. This is what we need to follow. There wasn't anything out there that existed like what we were trying to build. So that was the funnest part of the whole thing.
See, and in my eyes, I would have been scared. Like that would have been the scary part for me. Like,
It was scary.
what do I need to read?
That wasn't without fear, for sure. It was scary, but it was also, looking back now that we've made it past there, that was, in the heat of the moment, yeah, it was very scary. But
Yeah, for
man,
sure.
we look
And
back,
every
that's
business is
fun.
going to have those bumps, but that's awesome that you had, you know, other people to bounce those ideas off of and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? Will it work in the business? What do you guys think? Your employees and your staff and everything actually had input on how you want to run the business. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're a team. I mean, that's the culture that we tried to create from the beginning was, and that was part of our brainstorming session is we needed to create something that was good for our employees and our team. We needed to create something that was going to be valuable for our clients, and then the consumer base, as far as the people calling in that we're answering the phones for, we needed to make it a positive experience for them. So how could we accomplish all three of those things? And that's what we built the business around, was those three pillars.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. So since yours is kind of different, is there a common myth in your industry and can you help us debunk it?
Uh, as far as an industry and overall in general, from like an answering service standpoint or a virtual assistant standpoint, I think it's still relatively new. I mean, even the virtual assistant world gosh, really didn't take off until 2008. But some of the myths, I guess, that you can see that are starting to form would be like one, it's expensive. Um, and Yeah, I guess from a dollar cost standpoint of per minute or per hour, it's expensive. But so is Uber, for example, because it's cheaper to hire somebody, for $10 an hour than it is to pay $30 a minute for a ride or whatever, whatever the rate is for Uber now. It's a couple of dollars a mile, right, or something like that.
I don't know. They don't come
Um,
out to me. I'm in Middleton.
oh, well, so that's I mean that to that point though too is not everybody needs a full-time driver following them around all day. But if you go to some place that's out of your area where you're familiar with or that you have the resources to get around yourself, if you go to somewhere else, you may need somebody to take you around and show you where to go. And you're going to pay them a little bit more of a premium to do that, right? So in our administrative world, the virtual world, a lot of these business owners, they may not need an assistant to sit there 8 hours a day because they'll be bored out of their mind most of the time. But every once in a while, when they do miss a call, they need that call to get answered. That could be a sale, that could be a potential client, it could be something, right? Um, yeah, they're going to pay a little bit more price per minute. Like, it's not, I mean, it's not dollars and dollars, it's 99 cents a minute, but it's still more expensive than a $10 an hour employee, but you're only paying for 5 minutes, not 5 hours or, 5 days. So that's one of those myths is when you look at the costs, apples to apples costs, it looks expensive, but it's really not. Um, a lot of the other myths too is that it's impersonal. And the reason I think that is one of the myths out there is when you think of an answering service, a lot of people think of overseas. They think of India, Philippines, Costa Rica, someplace out there where people are outsourcing the jobs here for a less wage over there, and then you're going to get a lower quality experience because there's a language barrier. There's a lot of things there that are just really hard and that make it a tough experience to deal with. Um, but there are other companies besides ours that are just based here in the United States. All of our employees are here in the United States. Most of them are here in Idaho. Um, so it can still be again debunked because there are plenty of companies out there that offer only U.S. based answering services for relatively comparative cost as the overseas ones.
Yeah. Well, and I would think that if you're going, if it's not a full-time need and you don't need that full-time employee, if you went back and kind of did the math of, you have to pay workers' comp and you have to pay
Oh yeah,
insurance and you have to pay taxes on that payroll and you have to, all those little things that add up to that $10 an hour employee, you know, yeah, it's definitely not going to be apples to apples if I'm paying you to answer 5 phone calls, or if
right.
I'm going to pay this lady to sit in my office for 8 hours a day, and that's going to add up for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It ends up being about a less than a tenth of the cost of a full-time employee when you factor in all of the, and that's not even in factoring the time that it takes to train and manage the employee on your end either. It's just the hard costs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So if you were in my shoes and could ask yourself any question, what would it be?
Um, I think for me, one of the questions that I get asked, not a lot, but I really love answering, is what's my passion? Why am I here? As most small business owners can relate to, the first year or so we're probably not even taking a salary. We're not making much money, right? We're just in it because we love it. And so when it comes to like an answering service call center kind of thing, most people, when they hear call center, that's a buzzword for people to be like, ugh, call center. Why are you doing that? Why are you still there? Like, that's the question I get asked. What's my passion in it? And honestly, to answer that, it's my passion. The reason I'm doing what I'm doing is because I've always done jobs and owned businesses or been self-employed for 20 years on my own, doing things that helped small businesses. I've been anything from a financial advisor to, mentor to I've sold, you name it, anything and everything out there, right? Bookkeeping, accounting, et cetera, all kinds of different things to help small businesses. But the problem with that is I could only help them in one way. I couldn't help them, and when I was done helping them, I'd send them off to somebody that I didn't know or trust, and they'd, you know, good luck to you kind of thing. So my passion now is I get to control a lot of different aspects. That front and back office full service support thing, it really does help. We get to see the whole picture. Like, we really do help complete the entire picture for a lot of these small businesses who otherwise would be out there paying $100 an hour for a bookkeeper or a payroll person or or whatever. Um, so that's my passion, is I get to see from beginning to end now the whole picture of we helped them, we grew them, and then now they're able to go off and be successful because we were part of that process along the way. Um, that to me is the reward that I've been always looking for and never knew how to go out and actually achieve that. So it's very um, uh, rewarding to me to be able to give back to those small solopreneur business. I've been through it 20 years. I've been starting and stopping businesses. I've been successes and failures. I've been through all of that. And I've learned a lot along the way, especially what not to do, and to be able to impart some of that knowledge back. And, even if it's for free, a lot of the times just to help somebody out has been very, very rewarding. And that's what keeps them going.
Yeah, I can, especially right now, that's exactly why I'm doing these videos. If I can just impact a business in one small way and help them get a new customer that they, needed to remain open or whatever it is right
Mhm.
now at this point, that's why I can totally relate to that statement you just made for sure. 100%. Yeah.
And kudos to you too for sticking with
Yeah.
it, because it's right now especially is tough for businesses out there, right? There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty. So having somebody like yourself to be an anchor, a resource, and a support, it may be the world to somebody, and you may not even realize it until after the fact. But thank you
Yeah.
for doing what you do, for being
Oh,
here.
yeah. It's a passion, like you said, it's a passion right now, and I'm totally loving. I'm loving meeting all you guys and just all these new people and making friends, and I'm like, I love this. It's really fun.
Yeah.
So, and if it impacts you in a positive way, I am all for it, 100% on board. For sure. So,
Yeah.
how can the viewer support you right now?
Right now, especially, I need some virtual hugs. I mean, it's stressful. The times are tough. Even for businesses that are booming, they're struggling to keep up. They're struggling to figure out how to adapt and grow and change their business to accommodate the new virtual world um, that we've all known was coming, but nobody expected it to be overnight. We thought this would be over a period of years before we had to kind of adapt and grow. So it's kind of forced a lot of people into a level of uncomfortable uncertainty. So send me some virtual hugs my way. And if you hear about anybody out there who is struggling, whether they're growing or they're just looking on how to survive, if they need help with virtual calls, if they need help getting their business online, if they need help transitioning, and they just want somebody to brainstorm with, right now, that's again, I'm missing that creativity, that honeymoon phase. I'd love to sit down and do a brainstorming session. So for me, obviously, we can help as many people as we can, and if you know of somebody that needs help, send them my way. But otherwise, I just need some good positive vibes online. Send them my way.
For sure. So, how can they connect with you if they want to give you that virtual hug?
Send me an email, or I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Just look up Chadwick Taylor on Facebook. There's only like 6 of us in the world, so I'm probably on the list there. Or go to servicecenterpro.com. And you can send me an email at chadwick@servicecenterpro.com, or message me on Instagram, Facebook, call our number, whatever. There's a million different ways to get a hold of me, but yeah.
Awesome. So, and since you were been here your whole entire life, give us your favorite thing about the Treasure Valley. Impart some knowledge.
Um, so I'm an outdoorsman myself. I love the fishing, the camping, the hiking, and doing all those outdoorsy things, which is weird because I'm also an introvert, and this whole shut down isolation thing hasn't really bothered me. Of course, we've been working from home for the last year and a half anyway, so it's kind of business as usual for us. But the one thing I will say about the Treasure Valley is they say that the like Boise and the surrounding cities of Boise is the largest metropolitan area that's furthest away from any other major metropolitan area in the country. We're kind of like on our own little island in the middle of nowhere. It's like 4 or 5 hours to get to any other big city. You know what I mean? Um, but because we're on our own little island, we're all kind of by ourselves out here. We're dependent on our own, and Boise and the Treasure Valley is one of the few areas, and in fact, it's probably the only area I've ever been to that you can walk down the street and meet with executives and CEOs of major companies like Albertsons and ClickFunnels and these kind of big companies, right? And you get to talk to Russell Brunson, and you get to talk to these big chief guys of these huge companies, and they'll sit down and share a cup of coffee with you and impart all of their wisdom to you at for nothing. You could reach out to any of these CEOs, any of these entrepreneurs that have made it, And you can say, hey, I just want to come out and take you to lunch. Now, maybe that's not the best idea right now, but
Yeah.
um, they'll usually say yes. And usually they're open to a phone call, a quick cup of coffee. They may not always want to, take the time to mentor everybody for a long period of time, but any one of these people out here, and Boise's full of them. There are a lot of successful business people here who would be glad to impart their knowledge to anybody who is looking to get into the industry or whatever. So it's a very that's one of the best things I love about the Treasure Valley. It's very community based. It's very blue ocean kind of. Everybody's accepting of everybody else, and everybody's willing to do whatever it takes to help everybody else as well. You just don't find that anywhere else.
You don't. I was raised in a big city, and I moved up here in my early 20s, and you don't. Down there, it was, they were all in their scarcity mindset, and I'm going to hoard all my knowledge, and I'm not going to share
Hmm.
it with you because you might steal it. And but out here, yeah, you can walk into Cincy Commons and meet with Warville or Heidi, or
Hmm.
you can, like you said, ClickFunnels is right down the street. You can
Yeah.
go and check out with Russell, or and you run into these people grocery shopping or whatever, and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, you're in Hollywood and you're like, starstruck.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I love that. I
That's
love
right.
that. I never really thought about that way, but it is. I guess it's a huge blessing for us to be in that situation where we are kind of on our own little island, and being on that island, everybody shares with everybody. So I love
Absolutely.
that. Awesome. So is there anything else you want to add to the viewers today?
Um, just some words of maybe some comfort, maybe a little counsel. I'd say right now, especially, what we need most is adaptability. We need to also band together and support each other for one. But I think right now you'll see, maybe I can categorize it into two different businesses out there. There's the type A business, or a personal, self-employed person who is looking for ways to change, looking for ways to grow, and they're thinking to themselves, how am I going to adapt my business so that when this does blow over and everything goes back to, I'm not going to say normal, but there's a new normal that will be present, right? When it comes back to the new normal, how am I going to succeed then? So what am I doing now to prepare for that moment of, okay, the ban is lifted, we're going to go back out and meet people face to face again. How am I going to do business to make sure that I don't, get left behind, kind of thing? Or what am I doing now to take advantage of this opportunity if your industry presents it as an opportunity, right? There's opportunity out there. But then type B business, the other alternative business owner or self-employed person, they might just be sitting there saying, I'm just going to write it out. I'm going to wait it out. And then I can't wait for this thing to blow over so I can get back to doing business the way I'm used to. So my counsel and my word of comfort is, don't be like that. Don't wait for this thing to blow over, because yes, it will blow over. Eventually this will, I don't want to say all go away. It'll change. It'll get better. It may get worse before it gets better. But it will eventually have a new normal. There will be a new standard out there. There'll be a new level of expectation. There'll be a new way of doing business. Uh, and maybe your industry goes back to doing the way you do it before, but probably not. So don't count on waiting it out and then getting back to business the way you used to do it. It may not be there. So be thinking of ways to expand, grow, change, adapt, rise above, right? All of these things, how to become that new normal. And what are you going to do from a leadership role to bring that new normal into existence? These moments and these times of history where there's pandemic, or there's all this uncertainty, all the negativity, all of the oppression, anything like that, that's where leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. are born. Those are the times where there's always a handful, small group, one or two people who rise above and everybody follows. Um, let's make that let's be that leader, that group of small business owners that rises above and combines together and collaborates together and grows together, and helps each other, supports each other, so that we can all get through this. I'm a big believer in the rising tide raises all boats. So the tide kind of just went away and sunk everybody at the same time. Let's do whatever we got to do to make sure that when it does come back in, everybody's lifted back up, instead of cutthroat and trying to take over everybody else. So that's the only other thing I would add is, let's all be the first choice, the type A, and go out there and see what we can make of this opportunity and see what it's going to look like in the new normal.
I love that. I love that. I think you just became my new best friend. Just
I'll
with
take
that
it.
statement alone.
Good. I'll take
Yeah,
it.
I love it. But I mean, I do. You thinking like I have an interview with a crafting cottage, and sorry, my phone's gonna rattle the thing. But and
Yeah.
she is so afraid because she's stuck into, she's used to brick and mortar. So I'm
Yep.
like, and she didn't show up yesterday. So I was like, I'll reschedule you. That's great. I would love to interview you because I want to schedule you for a time where I can sit there and brainstorm with you because you know what? You can be on Zoom here doing, showing people like, what's that? Bob Ross, you can be
Yeah.
him, or you can, pull out your iPad with your pencil and start drawing in Procreate and show people how to use that. There's different ways that you need to be able to adapt. Like I'm a total brainstormer. I'm super excited for
Love
this.
it.
But so, yeah, so people, I think they do need to adapt. Otherwise, you're going to become the taxis and Uber's taking you out.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah,
This is a great opportunity for the interrupters to come in and disrupt whatever
yes,
your current business model is. And if you're not adapting and changing and growing, you will be left behind,
yes,
unfortunately.
for sure. Yes, definitely. Well, it was great meeting you, and thank you
You
for
too.
chatting with me.